Good afternoon, hello, and welcome to Artifacts with Edie, a live show and tell of the artifacts from the Summit County Historical Society. My name is Edie Steiner, and I am the shepherdess of the Summit County Historical Society, and I'm also a school-based music therapist with Akron Public Schools at Bridges Learning Center. Today, I am broadcasting to you live once again at the John Brown House here in Akron, Ohio. We'd like to say good morning to our scholars watching from Bridges Learning Center, and a special hello from Mr. Steiner to the students and the teachers at Cyberlink Community Learning Center. We are broadcasting, as I said, live from the John Brown House here in the heart of the city of Akron. The boys have been studying all week long, and Fridays are our big live game show, Are You Smarter Than a Border Collie? Each episode this week is your study guide. Lincoln has been studying especially hard this week. Can you take home the title, Smarter Than a Border Collie? There's really only one way to find out. It was here at the corner of Diagonal and Copley Roads where the Perkins and Brown Wool Company was founded. John Brown, shepherd of the Perkins family farm, cared for 1,300 to 1,500 Merino and Saxony wool sheep on the hillside lovingly known as Mutton Hill. Today we will continue our field trip here at the John Brown House and our tour of Akron and Summit County history together. When John Brown convinced Colonel Simon Perkins that it would be a good idea to set up a wool warehouse in Springfield, Massachusetts, Brown took his oldest son with him to help start the business. And it was here that he also had a chance to expand his role in the Underground Railroad and build relationships. When hardship fell on the business and in the warehouse, Brown found more and more comfort in the abolitionist opportunities in Springfield, Massachusetts. If you need a refresher of the details of what it means to be an abolitionist, go back to episode 11 and make sure you review that information for Friday's big test. His wife, Mary, and their two small children continued to live in this house in Akron during that time. John Brown kept in touch with his wife and his other children by sending them letters. You are looking at a reproduction of a letter addressed to Mary A. Brown, care of Simon Perkins, Esquire, Akron, Summit County, Ohio, in John Brown's handwriting. Cursive handwriting is almost something of a forgotten art for some people. To our young scholars, can you read and write in cursive? Some researchers in the United States that did not learn to read cursive handwriting in school actually have trouble reading documents like this that are part of collections and archives. To them, this letter could appear to be written in a foreign language that's difficult to understand if you don't know it. In this letter, Brown is writing from Springfield, Massachusetts on the 3rd of September, expecting to come back home to Akron by the 17th or 18th of that month. And it reads, "Your very appreciable letter of the 24th of August was received, and also one from Ruth. The very reasonable manner in which you write about my return, instead of disposing me to stay away, makes me more than ever anxious to go home. Should no vexing expected hindrance occur, you may look for me about the 17th or 18th of September. Affectionately yours, John Brown." It was during this early time in Massachusetts that Brown met Frederick Douglass, a freedom seeker, prominent activist, author, and speaker. Douglass said of Brown that he had too much sympathy for the freedom seekers and that he was so deeply interested in the cause that it was like his own soul had been pierced with the iron of slavery. Even though it was the first time that the two men had met, Brown told Douglass about his plans to end slavery. Douglas, who did not support violence, refused an invitation to join Brown then, but they did develop a great friendship. Colonel George Todd Perkins, the son of Brown's business partner, noted that Douglas and other famous abolitionists whom Brown met in Springfield, Massachusetts, also visited him here at this home in Akron, Ohio. One of the most recognized images of Frederick Douglass was actually captured by an Akron photographer. From our research, we have found that John Brown also met a man with an inspiring story, and his name was Henry Box Brown. Yes, that's an interesting name. While these two men have the same last name, they weren't actually related. Henry's middle name was not actually Box, but it was his nickname. Do you have a nickname? Some people receive special names due to what they look like, or how good they are at something, or how they arrived somewhere. But Henry Brown was a slave in Virginia, and he had a wife and children that he loved very, very much. Unfortunately, Mrs. Brown, her owner, decided that he wanted to sell her and the children farther down south. So they were worried about potential escape. So Henry Brown was heartbroken because there was nothing he could do to stop from losing his family. It was then that Henry Brown made the decision to escape to freedom in the North. With the help of a free African-American friend and a white sympathizer, a box was made to ship Henry Brown to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This box was only 3 feet long by 2 feet 8 inches deep by 2 feet wide. Lettering on top of the box, which was way at the top of the box, and there was a small air hole. Then Henry Brown's box was loaded on the boat, and the people who placed it on the deck actually put it upside down. Thank goodness 2 men wanted a place to sit when they were on the boat, and they flipped the box over, allowing Henry Brown to not have to stand on his head anymore. Upon reaching his destination at the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society, the lid was taken off, and Henry Brown stood up greeting a group of men by saying, "How do you do, gentlemen?" And that's how he got his nickname. It's time for us to review and find out what our artifact of the day is. John Brown traveled from Ohio to which state to expand on the Perkins and Brown Wool Company? Was it A, New York, B, Massachusetts, C, Pennsylvania, or D, Kansas? You got it. The answer is B, Massachusetts. He traveled to Springfield, Massachusetts. Question 2. Henry Box Brown is an inspiring story about a man who risks his life for what? If you said freedom, you're actually developing a really intensive empathetic listening ear. Empathetic listening opens your mind and your heart with compassion and tolerance of other people. I hear you paying attention. Excellent work, scholars. Here is our next question. 3. What is it called when someone calls you a name that is not your own? Is it A, a namesake, B, a file name, C, a username, or D, a nickname? Well, aren't you a smart cookie? Yes, a nickname. Today's artifact of the day is about a connection and represents a person as an individual, much like a nickname does. While the content of the artifact is not what is significant, the person who held this artifact with their unique fingerprints is. What could this artifact be? If you said a handwritten letter from John Brown, well then you have written yourself into Akron and Summit County history. Earlier in the program, I showed you a replica of a letter written by John Brown to Mary Brown. This letter, owned by the Summit County Historical Society, is part of our artifact collection. The letter itself tells a tale about John Brown asking for money. The letter was written in a way letter writing was a way for people to communicate and to tell the story of their life in a freeze frame of the moment and time that it was written. There's no delete button for John Brown when he was writing letters to his family. In the colonies, they did not have post offices, so mail was left at inns and taverns. By 1789, there were 75 post offices in the United States, and now there's over 40,000. During these times, they did not have post offices like today, like I said earlier, so at times people's letters were delivered by people that were just traveling in the same direction. This letter from John Brown was written before the first U.S. postage stamp was even ever developed. Akron's post office was just a box with a small slot that was designed to hold mail, and it sat on the side of the road. At times, mail was delivered by the stagecoach route that is now Copley Road, or on a steamboat like the one that carried Henry Box Brown to freedom. Historical letters give historians like you and me a way to experience and imagine history. The shape of his letters, the way that he spoke, can all be better understood by reading what he wrote. Does someone in your house have a little box of personal history just waiting for you to open it? Who have you saved letters from? We would love to hear those things in the comments. And what made you save those letters? There are few better ways to understand a historical figure or a person in your family than to examine the words that they wrote with their own pen and paper. Lastly, parents, grandparents, caregivers, and emerging scholars, conversations about slavery and enslaved people must be exactly that, conversations. Derman Spark emphasizes to us in her book, Teaching Young Children About Race, that in order for children to construct a respectful understanding of others and develop a positive sense of self, we need to talk with them about how they feel and what they think when they hear these stories of enslaved people. I will post more about her work in our comments today, and in the meantime, I invite you to check out the website teachingforachange.org for more information on how to bring these conversations into your home. Until tomorrow, my name is Edie Steiner, and I will see you at 11:30 for another episode of Artifacts with Edie, where I show and tell the artifacts from the Summit County Historical Society, where history is always within reach.